Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero podcast, the show where I cover the least in the best way possible. I'm your host, Jason Wells. Today is July 24th. Training camps are back. All 32 teams have reported. We are so close to the NFL season, and I know I'm just saying this every week now, but we truly are. Football is back. Training camps are back. We're going to get highlights. We're going to get the wild predictions. And this is kind of my final off-season show. Obviously, I still have my division previews coming up, but this is the first kind of like filler show. Next week, I start talking about the 2024 NFL season, and my God, am I excited. A little bit of a note to start off the show. It is my 2-year podcast birthday this week, coming up on the 27th. Very happy I've been doing this for 2 years, and I hope that if you've listened pretty consistently, you've thought that I've gotten better over these 2 years. I definitely think I have. I love doing this. It's just an excuse to talk about football, and I love football so much. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you who interact with any of my clips or listen or all the above. So thank you again. I'm going to keep doing this because it's not that much effort. I'd like to grow it a little bit more. I think that might be the year 3 plan, is to try to expand and do different things. I definitely got to post more, that's for sure. Not take like a 3-month hiatus in the summer. But yeah, Cover Zero is here to stay. I guess let's get right into the NFL Weekly Update. And with training camps right around the corner, that means holdouts are right around the corner. The notable names holding out right now, Hassan Reddick, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, Amari Cooper, and Jordan Love. Jordan Love and Amari Cooper are holding in, where they're showing up to training camp but not practicing whatsoever, not putting on the pads, not touching a football. They're there for the meetings, and there'll be coaches on the field, yada, yada, yada. And it pains me, but Jordan Love looks like he is going to get a big deal this week, and if you're part of NFL Twitter, you might know who Ricky is. Ricky is an NFL insider. His Twitter picture is his dog in a Giants jersey, or a dog in a Giants jersey. I don't really know. He's been right, very consistently, and gets scoops first. No idea who he is. He's right 80% of the time, but he says that a new QB will be the highest paid QB by the end of this coming week. And by all reports, Schefter and Rappaport have been tweeting that, Love looks to be getting a contract done. It would be absolutely nuts for Jordan Love to be the highest paid quarterback. Do I think he can get there? Yes, but to be the highest paid QB right now after half a good season, and that half a season was excellent, top 5 QB in the league type shit, but it would just be early. But that's the thing. You have to overpay quality quarterbacks, guys that you know that you can win with, and if they wait to pay Jordan Love, and he has a really good season, that price tag only goes up. So Jordan Love probably going to get a big deal. We got all the receivers sitting out. They're waiting for deals, and now that market is crazy. Tua also waiting for a contract, not holding out. He is there practicing. I'm pretty sure that's what I read. Training camp, or the practice day, isn't over, so I guess we will see. But I'm pretty sure Tua is there and is practicing, so big ups for Tua. The other one was Hassan Reddick. The Jets traded for him after letting Bryce Huff walk to the Eagles. Hassan Reddick wants a new contract, did not want to go to the Jets, and he's holding out. He's just, no, give me a new contract or I'm holding out, and is probably going to ask to be traded. He just does not want to be there. Joe Douglas is firmly on the hot seat, in my opinion, especially after this Reddick thing. He let Bryce Huff, who is a younger player, not as established, but had a very, very good season, double-digit sacks as a limited pass rusher. He goes over to Eagles, where I think that he will be their primary guy. And yeah, then he traded a third. So the Eagles got a third, could be a second, and Bryce Huff. And the Jets it's just bad asset management. I have not been a big fan of Joe Douglas. If you have listened before, Joe Douglas is firmly on the hot seat, in my opinion. We will keep going. A deal that just broke. Actually, not starting off with that. News out of the NFC South. Ryan Ramczyk, their longtime tackle, looks like he is out for the season, and this might be a career. Unfortunately for Ramczyk, he has a degenerative knee issue, I believe, which I think I don't know if it's the same thing, but it's what Travis Frederick, I believe, was also kind of dealing with, where it's just like, shortened career. And that's a huge blow for the Saints this season, who look to improve their offensive line. And now it looks like if Ramczyk is out for the year, that Fuaga, who is looking to play where he's always been, right tackle, will now get shifted to that left side where he's never played. And then Trevor Penning, who has been terrible, is going to go to that right side where he's never played before. It's not going to be pretty. I still have a lot of faith in Fuaga to be that guy. He was one of my favorite offensive linemen in the draft, but that Saints offensive line is not going to be pretty. That offense is not going to be pretty. And I guess you'll find out what I truly think of the Saints more in the division previews coming up in a couple weeks. But yeah, Ryan Ramczyk, who knows if this is the end for him. You obviously hope that he can come back, but hope that he can get healthy. I think that's all we can really say. The Jaguars have extended cornerback Tyson Campbell to a 4-year, $76.5 million deal, $53.4 guaranteed. Some people might say this is an overpay. I think for what Campbell has done, he doesn't have the notoriety for him to kind of be thrown in that mix. I looked it up before. I forget. I've been doing a lot of Googling in prep for this afternoon, but highest. It puts him in line with the guys who got paid this offseason anyways. Yeah, puts him right in there with the L'Jarius Sneed, Jalen Johnson type guys, and then there's a big drop off between that when it's Carlton Davis, Charvarius Ward, yada yada yada. Where with the market is going, I think that's good, and I think Tyson Campbell is a very underrated cornerback in the league. And the Jags are such a weird team for me, but I believe in the Jags defense for this season. I think that they have made a ton of improvements. I really like Ryan Nielsen, their defensive coordinator, who was the Falcons defensive coordinator, then the Saints defensive coordinator. His secondaries his defenses have just always been good, and I think that this Jags defensive unit is ready to take a big jump. And I think Tyson Campbell will have a huge part in that, and that's why he got paid. Another big extension here, Quinn Miners, 4-year, $80 million extension. Obviously, huge amount of money, and again, with the off-season signings that happened this year, that puts him right in line with Robert Hunt. I loved Quinn Miners when he was coming out of the draft. I really wanted the Dolphins to draft him. Out of Wisconsin Whitewater, which Div 3 school, he made his way up. I think that he had the pre-draft videos of him working out in a forest and like pass blocking trees and knocking them down. He's got the belly shirt and Quinn Miners, just a fun guy. And yeah, $20 million a year. The Broncos have invested heavily in their offensive line recently. I mean, Quinn Miners just got that deal. They signed Ben Powers last offseason. They signed Mike McGlinchey last offseason. Garrett Bowles has a big deal. Like, their offensive line probably the highest paid in the league. Like, not like thinking anything, but like I'm pretty sure that they would be up there. Those guys just need to stay healthy, because if they do stay healthy, the Broncos should have a very good offensive line. Obviously, a lot else wrong with that team, but the offensive line is something that I like. Another extension here, Kenny Clark, the big defensive tackle, nose tackle for the Packers, a 3-year, $65 million deal. Kenny Clark is, again, when you talk about these underrated guys, probably, the second best nose tackle in the league without really giving it thought. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence is number one. Kenny Clark, always a tremendous run stopper, gives you a little bit of that pass rush element, but without him plugging up the holes in the middle of that Packers front seven, it just does not work as well. They're very right to lock him up. He's excellent. A couple retirements here. Longtime Packer, Randall Cobb, retiring from the NFL. He just basically followed around Aaron Rodgers for the majority of his career. Longtime Packer, Super Bowl champion. Then, went over. He played with the Cowboys, the Texans, back to the Packers for a couple years. Finished it with the Jets last season. He's joining, I think, ESPN as like a college guy. Very good career, and I was thinking, maybe a Hall of Very Good. I looked at the stats. He had one 1,000-plus yard season. He did have a very good career, obviously, but the Hall of Very Good, it is becoming a prestigious institution, if I might say, and maybe he has a shot later down the line, but for right now, congrats on Randall Cobb for the retirement. Another retirement here, a surprise retirement. Shaq Barrett, currently of my Miami Dolphins, is retiring. Obviously we just signed him this offseason. He was very excited. He was hungry to prove the doubters wrong and be like, no, I got more in me. Like, wanted to gear up for a run, and I think he just wanted to be with his family, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you don't know, Shaq and his family lost their daughter around this time last year, and obviously that takes a huge toll on anyone. And at the end of the day, where it's just like, no, I want to be around my kids, and I want to raise my kids and be in their everyday lives, because being in the NFL, you are gone for so much of the year, and especially for a team like Miami, who does have playoff and deep playoff aspirations this year. It just extends that season. No slight towards him. I wish him all the best. Another Dolphins retirement here. Not a current Dolphin, but this legend right here, Kenyon Drake. One of my favorite Dolphins ever, and not because he was he was awesome. I loved Kenyon Drake when he was our starting running back. Like, those were fun teams that had very low expectations, and that's the play right there, the Miami Miracle in December playing against the Patriots, where it just schoolyard football, just kind of throw it around, wait for something to happen. Gronk did not have the angle. Kenyon Drake gets the touchdown. Like, that was my lock screen of my phone for, I think, 4 years. It's nuts that, my best memory of the Miami Dolphins is this, because it was a meaningless, deep December game where we played, Tom Brady and the Patriots. And any game against Tom Brady and the Patriots was always a big one. And he did struggle in Miami versus literally everywhere else in his career. But, I think that might have taken away their home field playoff advantage, so it did have some big implications, but Kenyon Drake, forever a Dolphins legend. I guess we'll move on from there. Next note up, a couple signings here. We got Eddie Jackson, the former, I think, All-Pro for the Bears, former All-Pro safety for the Bears, is now heading to Baltimore. I think he led the league in interceptions one year. Maybe I should just look this up, but he heads to Baltimore, which Baltimore has lacked a lot this offseason, and I'll talk more about it in the division previews coming in a couple weeks. But Baltimore added Derrick Henry this offseason and then just kind of lost a lot of talent, but they also have a lot of talent. They have drafted very well. That's what the Ravens do. They let the more expensive guys come in and be like, we're drafting, we're okay. But this Eddie Jackson signing, I mean, they already have Kyle Hamilton. They already have Marcus Williams. And now they bring in Eddie Jackson, who will be that third safety, and they like deploying three safeties. Kyle Hamilton can be their chess piece. He can play in the box. He can play in the nickel. He can just line up anywhere, and those plays where they still need two safeties, and Kyle Hamilton just does whatever the fuck he wants. Eddie Jackson will be that dude, and Eddie Jackson is still that dude. He is still he's not a very good player. He's still a quality NFL player, quality NFL starter, and I think this is a big addition for the Ravens this late in the offseason. Now, obviously, another safety gone, and that still means that Justin Simmons is still there. I don't know who Justin Simmons has messed around with in NFL circles, but, shocked that he has not been signed yet. Looking at Eddie Jackson, he was a first-team All-Pro, and I don't know if he did lead the NFL in interceptions. No, he only had 6 in 1 year. Either way, he was an All-Pro, and I was right about that. Look at my memory. Steel trap right there. Next signing up here, Emmanuel Ogbah. So obviously, I don't know why I don't finish my note first, then I get into the details. Note, please remember that, Jason. Emmanuel Ogbah is back in Miami, so obviously with the sudden retirement of Shaq Barrett, Miami needed another vet edge to come in while Phillips and Chubb get back from their injuries. And that man is Emmanuel Ogbah. Ogbah was obviously there for the last few years, cut recently because he was getting paid way too much, and his production has dropped off. At least Ogbah comes back and familiarity with the team. I think he can also play a little bit inside with this new Anthony Weaver defense. They like rotating in guys and guys who can play in multiple spots, and I believe Emmanuel Ogbah can play on the inside a little bit. Obviously, a massive downgrade from Shaq Barrett, but Ogbah is still a guy. He's a decent, I guess. I was trying to find the word there. A decent depth piece. Shaq Barrett was a good depth piece, a great depth piece. Ogbah is like an okay depth piece. And we'll take that, again, this point in the offseason. And I guess a little bit more Miami Dolphins talk. This Chop Robinson pick he needs to not pay it off immediately, obviously. No rush on Chop being him. We know he's not a project, but he's got some fine-tuning to do. He is a freak athlete. But if he can come in and be that guy immediately, that would be huge for Miami. Same thing with Mo Camara. I'm excited that Mo Camara will be getting some snaps, and he would have been anyways, but now he definitely will be getting some snaps. So the rookies need to step up here. Another low-key signing, Cam Akers signs with the Texans. Obviously, the Texans' running back room isn't that great with Joe Mixon, Dameon Pierce, now Cam Akers. Sure, the only reason I really put this down is Cam Akers is still a notable name. Very good player in college, drafted by the Rams. Definitely won a Super Bowl. Knee injuries, I think Achilles maybe, and just hasn't really been the same player. Maybe he reclaims some form back with the Texans. I doubt it, but the opportunity for him to get back on track would be there with the Texans. So all the best to Cam Akers. Final note here, Kadarius Toney is getting snaps at running back. Andy Reid says that's where they saw positive plays with him, which is fair, but I'm sure there weren't really positive plays anywhere except for maybe the few he lined up in the backfield. The Chiefs' running back depth really isn't that strong. It's Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still the third guy, or the second guy. I don't even know who the third guy is anymore. Toney is on the roster. They're not going to cut him. It doesn't matter. It doesn't save them anything. So He'll be on the roster, and he has, I don't know, again, he's elusive, he's agile, he's like a very good athlete. He's just can't put it all together at once. I don't know. So trying to use him is better than just kind of stuffing him in a closet and just being like, come out after the season, then we'll cut your ass. But yeah, so the Chiefs are trying to make Kadarius Toney work. We'll see how that goes. Okay, it was actually nice having a full NFL Weekly update. I'm sure that we'll get more and more of that stuff as we get closer to the Week 1 start. But it is Hall of Very Good time. Finishing it up here, we got the tight ends and we got the quarterbacks. Yeah, very good. I like doing this. I like doing the Hall of Very Good, and I'll talk more about it at the end here, but let's get into it. So starting off with the tight ends here, we got Julius Thomas, Martellus Bennett, Owen Daniels, Jeremy Shockey, Jared Cook, Dallas Clark, and Todd Heap. Okay, yep. Starting off with Julius Thomas, very short career, 7-year career, 2-time Pro Bowler, back-to-back 12 TD seasons with the Broncos, and Julius Thomas was an enigma, and this is kind of back when I started really playing fantasy football, and he was an excellent tight end for those first couple Peyton Manning years in Denver. Very athletic, just a big red zone target, and the reason he only had a 7-year career is like a lot of the guys in the Hall of Very Good is injuries caught up with him, and as soon as injuries, when you're a very good athlete and that affects your athleticism and your ability to operate on the football field, that was that. After the Broncos, he signed a good deal with the Broncos, but after that, went over to the Jags, finished up in Miami, but those few Broncos years at the start were why he was such a great player and why he is a nominee here. Next up, we have Martellus Bennett, 10-year career, Super Bowl champion with the Patriots, 1-time Pro Bowler. Martellus Bennett, been around the block. Long-time Bears tight end, though. Couple years with the Packers, went to the Patriots. Where did he go? I think I'm forgetting a team. Also, brother of Michael Bennett, other Hall of Very Good nominee. Martellus's best season was that 1 year he was in the Pro Bowl. He got close to 1,000 yards with the Bears. And again, it's the consistency that he showed throughout his career, and that's like a lot of these guys on this list where it's hard to be great as a tight end. It's hard to get noticed, and I'd say recently has been like, okay, tight ends are important, kind of, and even then we still only have like our 3, 4, 5 maybe like great tight ends in the league. But Martellus Bennett, for one point or another, was one of those guys for a while. That's why he is a Hall of Very Good nominee. Next man up, we have Owen Daniels, 10-year career, Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler. I forget where Owen Daniels won that. I think it was Broncos. Yeah, of course it was Broncos. In that 2015 year, the last year of his career. Went a few years in between his Pro Bowl. So he was a Pro Bowler with the Texans in 2008 and then also with the Texans in 2012. Just, again, another guy, very solid career, started off strong, and then, again, injuries play a part like they all do, but happy he was able to walk away in 2015 with one of those Pro Bowl, or with a Super Bowl. Another guy here, 10-year career. Again, injuries, they're shit. 2-time Super Bowl champ, one with the 2007 Giants, the other with the 2009 Saints. First team All-Pro once, 4-time Pro Bowler. Jeremy Shockey was one of Eli Manning's favorite targets for the start of their careers. Drafted the year before Manning, and he played his best ball with Eli. And then really, yeah, again, just consistent. Never any flashy seasons. Was a very good blocker. Was also a very good pass catcher. But Jeremy Shockey, two-time Super Bowl champ. What was his All-Pro year? His All-Pro year was his rookie year, which is wild to say that like your first year in the league is your best league or is your best year. Almost 900 yards and 74 catches. Great year for him there. Jared Cook, one of the more modern guys here. 13-year career, two-time Pro Bowler. Been around for I was going to say a very, very long time, but like obviously 13-year career. But been around the block, and his best years came later on in his career when he was with the Raiders and with the Saints. But let's go here. Tennessee Titans, St. Louis Rams, Green Bay Packers, Oakland Raiders, New Orleans Saints, Chargers, two-time Pro Bowler in 2018 and 19 with the Saints and Raiders there. And it took him a while to get going. Didn't really start in many games until he was in St. Louis. Then he goes to Oakland, where almost a 700-yard season, then almost a 900-yard season. Then he catches 9 TDs and 700 yards in New Orleans, like when he's supposed to be like well past his prime. Again, Jared Cook in those later years was a fantasy darling, probably a UDFA in most of those leagues, and ended up being a very good tight end. Next guy up, we have Dallas Clark, 11-year career, mainly with the Colts, Super Bowl champion with the Colts, first team All-Pro, one-time Pro Bowler. Absolutely popped off in 2009. 1,100 yards as a tight end is very, very hard. I know we see it more and more. Kind of in the modern game, but him getting 1,100 yards in 2009 is very special. And again, the injuries always play a factor, as they do with a lot of guys in the Hall of Very Good. But yeah, that 2009 season, 100 catches, 1,100 yards, 10 TDs, absolutely incredible. Could never really replicate that again, unfortunately. But hey, being one of Peyton Manning's favorite targets goes a long way in your NFL career. That's for sure. And finally, we have Todd Heap, longtime Ravens tight end. What am I doing? 12-year career, second team All-Pro once, two-time Pro Bowler. Just missed out on that Ravens Super Bowl in 2012. But again, it was the injuries that kind of started decaying his career a little bit. But and again, it was funny. His entire Ravens career was boom. They won the Super Bowl. He gets drafted. Or I guess it would have been the year after. Either way, it's like a couple years removed from a Super Bowl. They go the whole time. Very good team. Very good teams, obviously. And then his Ravens career ends, and then he goes, and then they go on and win a Super Bowl there, unfortunately. But yeah, Todd Heap, again, lots of injuries that piled up, but consistently good. Couple 800-yard seasons, couple 700-yard seasons. Consistent, good blocker, just again. And it's tough to really find stuff on tight ends, and especially like tight ends in the 2000s who weren't like some of the best. Like, you try finding me like a Todd Heap player package to like watch on YouTube. It's tough. But yeah, those are the nominees, and because it is hard to find tight end nominees, only one of these men are going in the Hall because I do not want to dilute the position. So only one of these men is going in, and it ended up in a tie in the voting between Martellus Bennett and Dallas Clark. So that gives me the deciding vote, and it is going to Dallas Clark. The Super Bowl and the first team All-Pro just kind of put him a little bit above Martellus Bennett. 1,100 yards in a season, 100 catches for a tight end. Like, that's stuff that Travis Kelce does. And This was 15 years before what Kelsey's doing, what he's doing now. So congrats on Dallas Clark for making the Hall of Very Good. On to the quarterbacks now. The nominees, we got Andrew Luck, Tony Romo, Joe Flacco, Alex Smith, Andy Dalton, Matt Hasselbeck, and Carson Palmer. Starting off with Andrew Luck, one of the most unfortunate careers in modern day history. Anyways, only a 7-year career, but in those 7 years, he made it matter. 2018 Comeback Player of the Year, 4-time Pro Bowler, led the league in TDs in 2014 with 40. Andrew Luck was heralded as the next Peyton Manning, the next generational quarterback, and when he was healthy, he was phenomenal. Like a smarter version of Josh Allen is what I can coin Andrew Luck. And you might be thinking to be like, oh my God, that's like the best quarterback ever. I think Andrew Luck was that special. And if it wasn't for GM Ryan Grigson absolutely bricking draft after draft after draft, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Maybe he would have had a longer career, but the injuries piled up. And then when he comes back in that 2018 season, and it's like Andrew Luck is back, he's healthy, 39 TDs that season, over 4,000 yards. Like, it's like, okay, the Colts are building, the Colts are rolling. He unexpectedly retires, and that crushed the Colts and any aspirations that they had, and he retired right before the 2019 season. And I think that the Colts in these past 4 years, 2019, 20, 21, in the past 5 years, I think that Andrew Luck would have won one of those Super Bowls, and the Colts would have been Super Bowl champions again. Those Colts teams and those rosters were really well put together by Chris Ballard, and they went to waste because QB is the most important position on the field. And I'm just going to read off some guys that Ryan Grigson drafted here. Bjorn Warner in the first round, Hugh Thornton in the third. Both guys played till 2015. Jack Mewhort, sure. Dante Moncrief had a decent career, but again, didn't help out Andrew Luck. Philip Dorsett was a bust. The offensive line was sellable. And then he gets fired, and then they finally start trying to rebuild, but that's when the injuries happen. But Andrew Luck was a special quarterback, and I think that he would have been a top five QB in this league and probably a Hall of Famer if he would have continued his football path in life. Next man up here, we have Tony Romo, the longtime Dallas Cowboys QB, holds multiple Dallas Cowboys franchise records. 13 seasons, all with the Cowboys. Second team All-Pro in, I think that was his 2014 year. 4-time Pro Bowler. Was the completion percentage leader in 2014 with 69.9%. And Tony Romo has a very interesting story, and I knew about this, but I didn't know how into detail. So for those who don't know, Tony Romo was a UDFA out of Eastern Illinois. Goes to Dallas because he saw that, okay, I have the best chance to potentially start there. Didn't throw an NFL pass for 3.5 years before he became their starter. 3.5 seasons in the NFL without throwing a ball in a live game. That's absolutely crazy. He was their holder on kicks. And again, I watched, how the NFL films does their 1 hour things on a specific player. There was one on Tony Romo that I watched. And I forgot the blunders, not blunders, but just the heartbreaking plays that man had to go through. I also didn't realize that the Cowboys were the first Cabo yacht team. It's not OBJ and the Giants. It was Tony Romo and the Cowboys going on vacation in Mexico with Tony Romo and Jessica Simpson, and that was the big news, and they lost that game where, at the end of the day, none of that stuff really matters, but matters to the media, and it matters to some fans that, oh, they weren't focused and blah, blah, blah. Tony Romo, yeah, when he eventually got into the games, he never looked back, and he was a great quarterback in this league. Definitely had his ups and downs, but when he had good teams, goddamn did he have good teams. He started off, we got T.O. and Jason Witten. That evolved later in his career to Des Bryant and DeMarco Murray with that fucking powerhouse of an offensive line. And I talked about it a little last week with the Des Bryant catch, no catch against Green Bay. And now I remember, since I watched the thing, or watched the doc, now I remember what actually happened in the play. But it was the 2014 divisional playoffs against Green Bay. Dallas is driving down the field to finish that game, to ice off the final drive. And Des catches it at the 1, but tries to extend to the goal line. He makes his steps, reaches for the goal line. Ball gets loose once the ball is hits the ground. Then he rolls over, gets possession again, and it was reviewed and it was ruled no catch. And now that is ruled a catch, but back then that was not a catch. And absolutely heartbreaking. That was the year. I mean, they would have played the Carolina Panthers that year were they were a juggernaut. They would have been hard to beat, but that was one of Tony Romo's best teams in his career. Then the next season, breaks his collarbone, comes back, hurts his shoulder again. Then he hurts his back the next year, and then again, here comes rookie Dak Prescott. And Dak never looked back, and Dak is still an excellent, excellent quarterback. Probably another future Hall of Very Good member here, Dak Prescott. And then Tony Romo just called it quits, and now he's everyone's favorite commentator, said with some sarcasm there, but Tony Romo. Next man up, we have Joe Flacco, still playing, going into year 17, Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP. Last year's comeback player of the year. What did he come back from, you might ask? It is being ass. He was just not good for a long time, and then he was the spark that the Browns needed, and it was fun. Wild ride to be on for Joe Flacco there, but the reason he's a nominee was that Super Bowl run that he had, and he was absolutely incredible. During that stretch, almost 300 yards passing a game, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions during the playoffs. Joe Flacco elite? In 2012, in that playoff run, you are goddamn right he was elite. And he's still doing it. He was a very solid, great quarterback for a long time. Did he never make a Pro Bowl? Did I just not write that down for some reason? Or has Joe Flacco never made a Pro Bowl? That would be crazy. I feel like I must have missed that. There's no way he hasn't made one Pro Bowl in his career. Am I being dumb? I think I'm being dumb. No, wow, Joe Flacco has never made a Pro Bowl in his career. That's nuts. Also, the 11 touchdowns in a postseason ties the record with whoever it is. I don't know who it is, but Joe Flacco has the most passing touchdowns in an NFL playoffs. But yeah, Joe Flacco. Next man up here, Alex Smith. 16-year career, 3-time Pro Bowler, former first overall pick, 2020 Comeback Player of the Year. Alex Smith had a very tough start to his career, going to the 49ers when the 49ers were a incompetently run, mismanaged franchise, and he had his own injuries too that he was dealing with, but did not start off well. 4 offensive coordinators in 4 seasons, and then Jim Harbaugh gets there. And everything kind of changes. There's structure to the team, and he has a few good seasons. It's like, okay, Alex Smith is playing pretty well. Then another injury happens. In comes Colin Kaepernick, and Colin Kaepernick was awesome for a very short amount of time. And Alex Smith looks for his next opportunity, and where does he go? For another disgruntled, mismanaged team, the Kansas City Chiefs. But who did the Kansas City Chiefs just hire to be their head coach? Andy fucking Reid. And those teams with Andy Reid there and Alex Smith, they were good teams. They were competitive teams. Did they always lose in the playoffs to the Colts, it seemed? Yes, they did. But Alex Smith was behind some very fun offenses. Some of those offenses where he didn't throw to a receiver for an entire season, but some fun teams nonetheless. And then, again, Patrick Mahomes gets drafted. Alex Smith's got to find a new team, and then that's kind of where it all came to an end, where, weirdly enough, on the same day, same time, same final score in the game as when Joe Theismann had his brutal, same injury as Joe Theismann in that game, but Alex Smith gets his leg snapped in half, basically. Tibia and fibula, both broken. And that's an injury that ended Joe Theismann's career, and this is an injury that almost killed Alex Smith. He required 17 surgeries. His leg went into sepsis. They discussed amputating his leg, and he missed half of the 2018 season, missed the full 2019 season, and he made it a thing to himself to be like, I'm going to come back. I'm going to play football again. And he did. He came back in 2020 when Washington just needed something, And he went 5-1 when he came back. Was it pretty? No, but for an injury that could have killed him and has ended many people's careers, for him to come back, go 5-1 to finish off his career, that's a storybook ending in my mind, and that's why he's a nominee for the Hall of Very Good. Next man up here, we have Andy Dalton going into his 14th season now. The Red Rifle, 3-time Pro Bowler, longtime Bengals quarterback. And again, those Bengals teams, they were pretty good. Pretty good back in the early 10s. Andy Dalton, A.J. Green, Tyler Eifert, Marvin Jones, Mohamed Sanu, Jeremy Hill, Giovanni Bernard, not a great offense. Andrew Whitworth was one of their tackles. Who was their other tackle that was also pretty good? He might be a Hall of Very Good nominee at some point. But, yeah, those Bengals teams were good. They were solid. They were never world beaters, and there's a reason that they never won a playoff game. But solid, good teams. And Andy Dalton is just so incredibly consistent throughout his career. And again, for him to win, you need the pieces around him and things need to work. Because he can't do it on his own. Not a lot of guys can. They need the team around him. But Andy Dalton got the job done when it mattered. Was he playing in a lot of games that really mattered? I would say no. But Andy Dalton, very good quarterback, still around in the league, and a good backup. I would love to have Andy Dalton as my backup QB. Next man up here, Matt Hasselbeck, 18-year career, 3-time Pro Bowler, was a 6th-round pick. Started off with the Packers, obviously backing up. Brett Favre went over to Seattle, and that's where he spent the majority of his career. Was inducted into the Seahawks Ring of Honor, and then eventually went over, was the backup for Andrew Luck, was the backup quarterback in Tennessee, I believe, too. But it's funny. I would say that Matt Hasselbeck is the previous generation's Andy Dalton. Pretty much to a T, where it's yeah, you played on some good Seahawks teams when they were just absolutely running the shit out of the ball, when they had Marshawn Lynch. They would have had old-ass Jerry Rice, which would have been fun, but Like, those Seahawks teams were making playoffs. Those Seahawks teams, like Sean Alexander, it was Sean Alexander and Marshawn Lynch. They were just running the football down people's throats. Those aren't at the same time, by the way, the Marshawn Lynch, Sean Alexander thing, but like fun offenses, and Matt Hasselbeck was there to just kind of manage and make sure that things went according to plan. And that's what Andy Dalton did in Cincinnati for a long time. So yeah, I would say that Matt Hasselbeck is that generation's Andy Dalton. And I don't think that that's too far off. Like, guys who both had very good stretches for one team, playoff runs, etc., and then just became very solid, dependable backups. And becoming a dependable backup makes you millions more in this league. And finally, we have Carson Palmer, 14-year career, another former first overall pick here, second-team All-Pro once, three-time Pro Bowler. And his best year of his career came later in his career with the Cardinals. He was the TD leader and completion percentage leader in 2005, and then his best career season was in 2012, where he also was tied for the league in touchdowns. If I remember correctly, I think he had 37. I'm looking it up right now. But yeah, that 2015 year where he goes 13-3, 4,671 yards, 35 TDs, passer rating of 104.6. And like, that's what I remember of Carson Palmer, was that later stage in his career with the Cardinals, where it was, again, not a very good team, but Bruce Arians is a hell of a fucking coach. There's a reason he got inducted into the Hall of Very Good. Where he was just tossing the shit out of that football to Larry Fitzgerald. And Larry Fitzgerald is someone who's just, I mean, when I talk about like consistency, it's Larry Fitzgerald, and Larry Fitzgerald did consistency at an elite level for so fucking long. But yeah, Carson Palmer started off with the Bengals, was a little shaky to start his career, but lucky for him, he had Chad Ochocinco, Chad Johnson, he had TJ Houshmandzadeh. Who was the fucking running back there? Ben Jarvis Green-Ellis? Maybe? Either way, I think they had a good running back too. But again, injuries, was a little shaky, gets traded to the Raiders. The Raiders were just a dumpster fire and kind of still are. And then, yeah, he finally, okay, it's his final shot to go to Arizona, prove that he can still be that guy. And he did for a while. And again, it was that 2015 season where they're playing the Packers in the playoffs, and game goes to overtime, and that final drive where, like, Rodgers, crazy play, crazy Hail Mary play, I think, to, what was that guy's name? He caught all the Hail Marys for Rodgers, but Cardinals get the ball back. Maybe I'm thinking of two different games here. I think I'm thinking of two different games. Either way, this Cardinals game against the Packers ended, Palmer spins out of the pocket at his old-ass age, finds Larry Fitzgerald way down the field. Fitzgerald makes a couple guys miss, gets it in close, and then they finish it off with what we see the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid do, where Mahomes is dropping back, and then he does the shovel pass to Kelsey, kind of coming across the line, and then he just kind of cuts up in. That's what they ran to Larry Fitzgerald, and it worked. They won that game. I think that was the year... No, that wouldn't have made sense. I'm trying to remember who was in the playoffs that year. Either way, doesn't really matter. But, yeah, Carson Palmer was absolutely awesome, and that's why he is a Hall of Very Good nominee. And let's finish it off here. The final two nominees getting inducted into the 2024 Hall of Fame class, Hall of Very Good class, sorry, is QBs Andrew Luck and Tony Romo. Congrats to the both of them. Congrats to all of the inductees who got into the Hall this year. Andrew Luck, Tony Romo, Maurice Jones-Drew, Todd Gurley, Wes Welker, Des Bryant, Dallas Clark, Jake Long, Mitchell Schwartz, Travis Frederick, Vince Wilfork, Kyle Williams, Justin Houston, Clay Matthews, Donta Hightower, London Fletcher. No, wait. I switched that. London Fletcher and Gerard Mayo. My mistake. Charles Tillman, Antonio Cromartie, and then Devin McCourty, Malcolm Jenkins, and Steven Goskowski to finish it off here. Congrats to all those guys. I will be putting them into the hall basically as I'm done recording here. So yeah, we are on to divisional previews starting next week. And I think I'm starting off with the East divisions. I think I want to get my teams out of the way. I want to talk about my teams. Where's my schedule here? There's my schedule. So yeah, I'll just let you know what the schedule is for the upcoming shows before we get to week 1. Nope, never mind. I'm not starting. I'm starting off with the West. So I got NFC West, AFC West, and then I do the North preview, AFC North, AFC East, AFC South, NFC South, and then it's going to be awards, playoff predictions, and hot takes, and then it's going to be the Week 1 preview, and we are going to be into the NFL season, and I cannot wait. We are 1 month away. I mean, a little bit more than 1 month away, but so close. Final note, I guess. I was working my CFL gig last Friday night at the Red Blacks versus Elks game, and I was excited because I was going to go and see Robert Nkemdiche, who, if you don't know that name, former Ole Miss Rebel, former, I think, top 5 high school player in the States, first round pick by the Cardinals, and then it just kind of didn't work out. I mean, I think he was a bit of a stoner, immense talent, but just kind of didn't put it all together. But he's playing for the Elks, and I was like, damn, I get to watch this guy who was a former NFL first-round pick. Unfortunately, I found out when I got to the game, he is hurt. He has a quad injury, and I think he's back literally this week. But what I did find out, though, is I was walking around the sidelines, walking close to the Elks sideline, and I see a massive man with Oakman on the back. And I was like, Oakman. And I'm like, there's no way that's Sean Oakman, right? Because I was like, I think Sean Oakman's been playing in the CFL, and it was, in fact, Sean Oakman. And if you don't know Sean Oakman, former Baylor Bear, and in high school, he was a meme. He, standing on the sideline, looking menacing as hell, with his half jersey just showing how, like, his ripped abs, just tinted visor, just looking scary as hell, towering over everybody. Yeah, Sean Oakman is, he's that huge in person. He's that scary in person. Unfortunately for him, the Red Blacks still got the win, undefeated while I have been on the sidelines there. But it's very cool that I'm getting to see these, like, former, like, Sean Oakman's not a former NFL guy, but, like, guys in football that I know for one reason or another. It's very cool, and I'm loving this experience. They play the Stampeders this Friday. I'll have to look up who's on the Stampeders. I don't know if there's anybody from the NFL who I should be looking out for, but I guess I'll find out soon. Congrats to the Hall of Very Good nominees. For next year's Hall of Very Good, I'm going to be adding a senior nominee. So that's anyone basically pre-21st century, and I'm only allowing one guy in per position per year because I have no idea what to really base it off of other than stats. It'll be very hard to find people talking about, like, again, guys who aren't Hall of Famers from the 70s and 80s and 60s, I guess. I don't fucking know, but I will be adding senior nominees to the Hall of Very Good next year. I guess I'll end it here. As always, if you have liked this, please like, share, retweet, subscribe, tell all your friends, and until next time, peace. Happy 2 years.